All right, Luke 78:6. On the Sabbath, it happened that as he was crossing the cornfields, his disciples pulled some ears of corn and ate them, rubbing them in their hands. Some of the Pharisees said, "Why are you doing what is not allowed on the Sabbath?" But Jesus answered them, "And have you never read what David did when he and his men were hungry? He went to the house of God, took the loaves of the presence, and ate them, giving them to his men as well, bread that no one is allowed to eat except the priests. And he said to them, The Son of Man is the Lord even over the Sabbath." Another Sabbath, he happened to go into the synagogue and teach. Now a man was there who had his right hand withered, and the scribes and Pharisees watched to see if he would heal on the Sabbath, so as to discover some charge against him. He knew what was in their minds, so he told the man with the withered hand, "Rise and stand forward." He rose and stood before them. Then Jesus said to them, "I ask you, is it right on the Sabbath to help or to hurt, to save life or to kill?" And glancing round at them all in anger, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He did so, and his hand was quite restored. This filled them with fury, and they discussed what they could do to Jesus. It was in these days that he went off to the hillside to pray. He spent the whole night in prayer to God, and when day broke, he summoned his disciples, choosing 12 of them, to whom he gave the name of the apostles: Simon, to whom he gave the name of Peter; Andrew his brother; James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, the son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who turned traitor. With them he came down the hill and stood on a level spot. There was a great company of his disciples with him, and a large multitude of people from all Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to get cured of their diseases. Those who were annoyed with unclean spirits also were healed. Indeed, the whole of the crowd made efforts to touch him, for power issued from him and cured everybody. Then, raising his eyes, he looked at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you poor, the realm of God is yours. Blessed are you who hunger today, you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep today, you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men will hate you, when they will excommunicate you and denounce you and defame you as wicked on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice on that day and leap for joy. Rich is your reward in heaven. For the fathers did the very same to the prophets. But woe to you rich folk, you get all the comforts you will ever get. Woe to you who have your fill today, you will be hungry. Woe to you who laugh today, you will wail and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you. That is just what their fathers did to the false prophets. I tell you, my hearers, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If a man strikes you on the one cheek, offer him the other as well. If anyone takes your coat, do not deny him your shirt as well. Give to anyone who asks you, and never ask your goods back from anyone who has taken them. As you would like men to do to you, so do to them. If you love only those who love you, what credit is that to you? Why, even sinful men love those who love them. If you help only those who help you, what merit is that to you? Why, even sinful men do that. If you only lend to those from whom you hope to get something, what credit is that to you? Even sinful men lend to one another so as to get a fair return. No, you must not love your enemies and help them. You must lend to them without expecting any return. Then you will have a rich reward. You will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind even to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. Also, judge not, and you will not be judged yourselves. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Pardon, and you will be pardoned yourselves. Give, and you will have ample measure given to you. they will pour into your lap measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over, for the measure you deal out to others will be dealt back to yourselves. He also told them a parabolic word. Can one blind man lead another? Will they not both fall into the pit? A scholar is not above his teacher, but if he is perfectly trained, he will be like his teacher. Why note the splinter in your brother's eye and fail to see the plank in your own eye? How dare you say to your brother, "Brother, let me take out that splinter that is in your eye," and yet you never notice the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, take the plank out of your own eye first, and then you will see properly to take out the splinter in your brother's eye. No sound tree bears rotten fruit, nor again does a rotten tree bear sound fruit. Each tree is known by its fruit. Figs are not gathered from thorns, and grapes are not plucked from a bramble bush. The good man produces good from the good stored in his heart, and the evil man evil from his evil. For a man's mouth utters what his heart is full of. I think this is 7. Why call me Lord, Lord, and obey me not? Everyone who comes to me and listens to my words and acts upon them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man engaged in building a house, who dug deep down and laid his foundation on the rock. When a flood came, the river dashed against that house, but could not shake it, for it had been built well. He who has listened and has not obeyed is like a man who built a house on the earth with no foundation. The river dashed against it, and it collapsed at once, and the ruin of that house was great. This is 7. When he had finished what he had to say in the hearing of the people, he went into Capharnaum. Now there was an army captain who had a servant ill, whom he valued very highly. This man who at that this man who was at the point of death. So when the captain heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish elders to him, asking him to come and make his servant well. When they reached Jesus, they asked him earnestly to do this. He deserves to have this favor from you, they said, for he is a lover of our nation. It was he who built our synagogue. So Jesus went with them. But he was not far from the house when the captain sent some friends to tell him, "Do not trouble yourself, sir. I am not fit to have you under my roof, and so I did not consider myself fit even to come to you. Just say the word and let my servant be cured. For though I am a man under authority myself, I have soldiers under me. I tell one man to go, and he goes. I tell another to come, and he comes. I tell my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he marveled at him, and turning to the crowd that followed, he said, "I tell you, I have never met faith like this anywhere, even in Israel." Then the messengers went back to the house and found that the sick servant was quite well. It was shortly afterwards that he made his way to a town called Nain, accompanied by his disciples and a large crowd. Just as he was near the gate of the town, there was a dead man being carried out. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Numbers from the town were with her. And when the Lord saw her, he felt pity for her and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he went forward and touched the briar. The bearers stopped. "Young man," he said, "I bid you rise." Then the corpse sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. All were seized with awe and glorified God. "A great prophet has appeared among us," they said. "God has visited his people." And this story of Jesus spread through the whole of Judea and all the surrounding country. John's disciples reported all this to him. So John summoned 2 of his disciples and sent them to ask the Lord, "Are you the coming one, or are we to look out for someone else?" When the men reached Jesus, they said, "John the Baptist has sent us to you to ask you if you are the coming one, or if we are to look for someone else." Jesus at that moment was healing many people of disease and complaints and evil spirits. He also bestowed sight on many blind folk. He replied, Go and report to John what you have seen and heard, that the blind see, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and to the poor the gospel is preached. And blessed is he who is repelled by nothing in me. When John's messengers had gone, he proceeded to speak to the crowds about John. What did you go out to the desert to see? A reed swayed by the wind? Come, what did you go out to see? A man arrayed in soft robes? Those who are gorgeously dressed and luxurious live in royal palaces. Come, what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and far more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, Here I send my messenger before your face to prepare the way for you. I tell you, among the sons of women no prophet is greater than John, and yet the least in the realm of God is greater than he is. On hearing this, all the people and the tax gatherers acknowledged the justice of God, as they had been baptized with the baptism of John. But the Pharisees and jurists who had refused his baptism frustrated God's purpose for themselves. To what then shall I compare the men of this generation? What are they like? Like children sitting in the marketplace and calling to one another. We piped to you, and you would not dance, and we lamented, and you would not weep. For John the Baptist has come, eating no bread and drinking no wine, and you say he has a devil. The Son of a Man has come eating and drinking, and you say, Here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax gatherers and sinners. Nevertheless, wisdom is vindicated by all her children. One of the Pharisees asked him to dinner, and entering the house of the Pharisees, he reclined at the table. Now there was a woman in the town who was a sinner, and when she found out that Jesus was at a table in the house of the Pharisees, she brought an alabaster flask of perfume and stood behind him at his feet in tears. As her tears began to wet his feet, he wiped them with the hair of her head, pressed kisses on them, and anointed them with the perfume. When his host, the Pharisee, noticed this, he said to himself, If he was a prophet, he would know what sort of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner. Then Jesus addressed him. Simon, he said, I have something to say to you. Speak, teacher, he said. There was a moneylender who had 2 debtors. One owed him 50 pounds, the other 5. As they were unable to pay, he freely forgave them both. Tell me now, which of them will love him most? I suppose, said Simon, the man who had most forgiven. Quite right, he said. Then turning to the woman, he said to Simon, You see this woman. When I came into your house, you never gave me water for my feet, while she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You never gave me a kiss, while ever since she came in, she has kept pressing kisses on my feet. You never anointed my head with oil, while she has anointed my feet with perfume. Therefore I tell you, many as her sins are, they are forgiven, for her love is great, whereas he to whom little is forgiven has but little love. And he said to her, Your sins are forgiven. His fellow guests began to say to themselves, Who is this to forgive even sins? But he said to this woman, Your faith has saved you. Go in peace. How long's that been? Oh, when it stopped.